China may have found a way to get boots on the ground in Taiwan. New images have emerged on social media of what are being called invasion barges, mobile harbors used to land troops and supplies. Our defense reporter Jaime Ocon is live in our newsroom in Taipei. Jaime, what do these images show?
Well, that's right. So on Thursday, some images were posted on Chinese social media site Weibo, with one video showing what appears to be a specialized barge that could be used for an invasion of Taiwan. Now, in January, a military news site, Naval News, was the first to report that China was building about 5 of these barges. These are mini ports that some analysts say are specifically used for an amphibious attack potentially on Taiwan. Now, TaiwanPlus has obtained satellite imagery taken a few days ago near southern China, which appears to show that same kind of barge used in a small amphibious exercise. Now, some people are concerned because China has been trying to find ways to get boots on the ground here in Taiwan in the event of an attack. Now, this would mean transporting hundreds of thousands of troops and equipment across the Taiwan Strait, either through the air or by sea, and it's still unclear whether Beijing has those kinds of capabilities. But China has been practicing that kind of operation for decades. Observers are now saying that if Beijing uses these kinds of barges, that Beijing could actually pull that operation off. Now, for more on this, I spoke to Tom Sugar. He's an adjunct senior fellow at the Center for a New American Security, a think tank based in Washington, D.C.
The big surprise, and it was a surprise to me that we learned today, is that these apparently are intended to be linked together to form one much longer transfer assembly from the shore to the sea. So instead of 3 different landing points where you could project essentially a pier something like 300 meters out into the water, we're seeing now more like 800 to 850 meters that this thing could get out in the water, potentially for much larger areas of the Taiwanese coast. Now being able to get a pier from the shore all the way out deep enough water where you can have these ferries pull up and unload onto them. I think these will be much quicker to be set up, where you can wind up with a lot less warning, where they could potentially be moved if they need to for weather or threats, where they're not nearly as much of a fixed target as these normal floating piers are. Because these vessels are self-propelled, it appears. They're self-propelled. I imagine they're probably highly automated. And they basically they can just drive up and they lower these legs and lift themselves out of the water. And then you bolt the next one and connect to it, and the next one and connect to it. It really is quite something.
And Tom, well, we've known for a while that China is trying to increase that capability to transport soldiers and equipment across the Taiwan Strait in the event of a war with Taiwan. How concerning is this new development?
Well, I've said for several years now with respect to the use of roll-on, roll-off ferries that in the absence of the China civilian sea lift, if you're asking the question, and it's an important one, does China have the ability to invade Taiwan without civilian shipping, with only the PLA Navy's amphibious assault ships? The answer is clearly no. They don't have enough sea lift. But if you add in China's civilian shipping, and this is not theoretical, these civilian companies, the ferry companies, and roll and roll off vehicle carrier companies, they're organized auxiliaries of the Chinese military. They regularly practice. Their ships are built to defense standards. This is not something that they might think about doing someday. They are practicing doing it. To the question, can China invade Taiwan? I think goes from a no to maybe. Maybe they do, maybe they can. Maybe they do have the sea lift to do it. I think it's unlikely that these 6 vessels by themselves provide the capacity to successfully invade Taiwan. But what we have to remember is that China has literally dozens of shipyards that could probably build these. And these 6 were built by one shipyard in about 6 months, 6 to 8 months.
Now, we've reached out to Taiwan's Defense Ministry for a comment, but they have not yet responded. And it's important to remember that China's President Xi Jinping has made it a mandate for his military to be ready by 2027 to annex Taiwan by force if needed. Now, that year, 2027, is not a certain year. The conflict is certain, but these new types of capabilities, these barges that Beijing is building, does move it more towards that goal to be a more modern fighting force and ultimately an even bigger security concern for Taiwan.